Welcome everybody. Welcome to the third session of Book Clubs Across Borders between Swat and Kandahar. I'm sure the Kandahar people will join us shortly. So for the book for this month was Iqbal. Iqbal is a fascinating tale of this young child who was named Iqbal, and it's a true story it's a true story about this child who suffers from the plague of child labor and bounded labor, and then courage to free himself, and not only himself but all his fellows that he saw suffered with him, and many more. The story of Iqbal deals with issues more serious than child labor. They deal with issues with sexual harassment, with issues of education. They deal with issues of women empowerment. And this is a story that I think everybody in Pakistan and in Afghanistan can relate to. Because this is a reality that we all see. And sometimes we don't want to register. When I read the book, the first thing that came to my mind was millions and millions of kids that we see every day on the hotels that we have our chai in, or any the street that we walk in, and we see 1,000 kids working, and we never really stop and wait to think that what might be their story, what might be the tragedy they might have gone through. But after reading Iqbal, it brought me back to that place where I could empathize and I could just feel their pain and feel the hopelessness that these kids might feel. But out of all of this, the story of Iqbal also teaches us the power of courage, the power of just believing, and the power of attractiveness. The law of attraction always says that whatever you're attracted to, you will always going to get that. And that is something that very much resonates with this story because he believes. If I remember correctly, he when while talking to Fatma, he says that next year I'm gonna fly kites with you, and then he is doing that. Although at a point it looked like this might never happen, and even Fatma at that point was thinking that he's just fooling around and having daydreams. But those were not his. For him, it was not dreams. For him, it was a reality that he had to make happen. So let's start with Swat boys on that note and try to see how did they find the book and what was the lesson that they got from it and what was the experience for them. So Swat, over to you.
The opportunity. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum Assalam.
Thank you for giving us the opportunity to share our views about this book. An amazing book. Last night I completed it to read, and I learned lots of things from this book. The way they explain the character of Iqbal, the way they explain the qualities of Iqbal, all are the skills of a leader. Iqbal was a born leader. He has the courage, he has the confidence to talk about the problems of his society. Although he belonged to a very backward area, that is Bakhar in our Punjab, Pakistan, one of the backward areas of Pakistan. Iqbal was, hello? Okay. Iqbal, at the age
Please go
of 4
on.
years,
Please go on.
was put on work by his father with a carpet weaving honor for the repayment of loan as a bonded labor. Although bonded labor is being banned in Pakistan, but still there are some factories which are practicing this unethical job.
Yes,
Bal
Swat,
work
please
at
go
the
on.
age of 6. Um, he was successful in leaving the factory and went to police about and make a report against this bonded labor. The police officer, unfortunately, the police officer put him back to the work and got some money for that. When second time Iqbal escaped from the workplace, he was succeeded and went to a foundation named as Bonded Labor Liberation Fund, and we got the opportunity to go to school and involve in other activities. Iqbal raised his voice against the bonded labor. A young girl named Fatma was also with him at the workplace. She also helped Iqbal in many ways. Iqbal Iqbal wanted to become a lawyer and speak out against this bonded labor, and Iqbal succeeded. Iqbal went to US, Sweden, and many more countries and raised his voice against this bonded labor. The world supported him, encouraged him to speak out about this bonded labor, and Iqbal did so. But unfortunately, at a very young age, Iqbal was killed during a speech when he was invited to US for a speech, and Iqbal was killed there. The funeral of Iqbal was brought to Pakistan back in 1995.
Wonderful, wonderful for your information, sharing us the information about Iqbal and sharing your views about his story and how he suffered from so many difficulties, but still managed to liberate himself, and not just himself, but his fellow companions with him. And the story of Iqbal just shows how much a person can do regardless of the shackles that he might face, regardless of the structures that are there to stop him. But the power of will and the power of believing can overcome any hurdle as such. So thank you, Suha. Thank you so much. On this note, let's go on to our partners in Afghanistan and let's see how they found the book Iqbal and how was the experience of reading it and what were the lessons they got from the story. Over to you.
First of all, Assalamu alaikum. This is Marel Emiri from Kandahar and the head chapter of Book Lab Across Borders. To be honest, today is very cold here in Kandahar, and maybe it will snow very soon here in Kandahar. And as you can see, like we have only a few of the participants. Actually, the only reason the problem here was that we didn't receive the book on time. Today, someone called me that your books are here, and I said, "Come on, today is our Wednesday, and we don't have time to read that." So I just shared this one concern with the partners, and they provided us with some links. So today I am going to provide all the books to them via phone or like I am going to provide them the books in soft, and inshallah they will be ready for the next program. So today we decided to hear from our partners in Pakistan, and inshallah we promise that we will inshallah share our views and thoughts about the book I Am Malala next week, inshallah. I mean next month, inshallah. So we apologize for that, and we are very sorry. We are not like prepared for this session, but we will listen, and we are very dedicated and very eager to listen to our partners in Pakistan. Actually, like this was the major challenge that we faced, like not having the books on time. I mean, today someone called me that your books are here from Kabul, and then I said that today is our program, but still we are partners in Pakistan. So inshallah, today I will be providing the participants the books in soft, I Am Malala. I hope it doesn't create any problems for you all. And we are very sorry once again for this problem. Inshallah, like this problem will not happen once again. Even though Kandahar was very good in sharing their ideas with partners in Pakistan in previous sessions. But this session, we are very sorry.
It's completely Gandha. We can understand that we are all, both in Pakistan and Afghanistan, are facing a difficult circumstance with the lockdowns and everything. And as you mentioned, that it's snowing over there. So just to fill you up and fill up all the students about the story of Iqbal. So Iqbal is a story which deals with the issue of bound labor. It's a story of young kids, particularly Iqbal, who comes to a corporate weaving factory where there are already other kids who has also been brought to the factory under the same circumstances, which were that their parents took some loan and they were not able to pay off their loans. So their son or factory owner basically says to them that if you're going to work hard, you're going to be able to pay off your loan and you're going to do a great privilege to your family. So all the kids over there try to work very hard so that they can pay off their debts and go home. But slowly and gradually, they all realize that they're never going to pay their loans back. And even the factory owner says that I'm going to put this slate, and he says that I put this marks, and every day you do the work, good work, I remove the marks. But they realize that the marks never go away. But they don't want to accept this reality. They don't want to accept that they are bounded and they are holding up in this environment that they will never able to free themselves from. So in that regard comes Iqbal, a young kid who has gone through the same circumstances for a lot of years and finally comes to this factory, and where he's considered to be a very talented and a very skillful labor. But and all the other kids feel like he's gonna get his pay very soon because he's so skillful and he has so much talent. But Iqbal tells them that no, I'm not gonna be freed. I'm just like you. We are all gonna stay here unless we do something about it. Very shocked for the kids, and they are not able to understand why is this guy talking like that. Because sometimes, as you may understand, if the reality is and proves it to his fellow something about it, they need to find the courage to get out of this. And the story goes on and how Iqbal makes efforts. For the first time, he makes effort, like the friends in Swat shared, that he makes an effort and he calls the police and he drops complaints to the police. But the police just take a bribe because of this corrupt system that we have, which promotes these kind of practices and kind of sustain them. So the police officer take the bribe, and Iqbal is again thrown back to the pit where he has to suffer and he's being punished for going to the police officer. But Iqbal doesn't lose his faith. Tells his friend Fatma that next year we're gonna be flying kites on the rooftop of Lahore. And her friend does not really believe. She says that this is just a childish fantasy that Iqbal is dreaming. But for Iqbal, it was very much a reality, and he worked towards it. And then he finally able to achieve it, and not only free himself, but his companions and many, many other people are all around the world. So the story of Iqbal is not just about child labor or bounded labor, but it's also about the power of will and how an individual can overcome all the unbelievable shackles that he might find. For example, lack of education, lack of resources, no family support, prevalence of corruption culture, and all these social illicit that we face. Iqbal overcomes that and liberates many, many, many young children. So that is the discussion that we're gonna be having, and I'm sure participants in Kandahar would have some idea about what bounded labor is and what are the traumas that goes along with it. And I'm sure they see it in their societies around us. And let's just try to have a conversation along those lines. So I'm seeing we have our girl participants from Swat. So let's move on to them and what are their views on it. If we may have a female participant share their view on Iqbal. Mama, am I audible to you? Are you guys able to hear us?
Assalamu alaikum, we are listening to you.
Wow.
Good morning, everyone, and
Walaikum salam.
welcome
So
to the
I wanted to
session.
ask that how did you find the book Iqbal?
Swat girls, we have a question for you. All of you read the book Iqbal. We would love to know what you thought about the book and what were the points that the book raised that you would like to discuss in today's session. Over to you.
I'm here to tell about child labor studies and anti child labor. Child labor refers to employment of children at regular and sustained labor. It is full-time employment of children under uneven legal age. In most developed and emerging countries, use of children as labor is considered as a violation of human rights. Causes of child labor. The main causes of child labor are the margin of poverty and unemployment is very large and availability of the education. How to prevent child labor? National laws about child labor should be revised because your bias demands verify the age of your employee. Recognize dangerous work, take out a workplace to risk estimation, prevent hearing children of minor age. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much for those thoughts and so many details on what bonded labor or child labor is. One of the things that the book really tries to focus on is when a child is put into bonded labor, the biggest disservice that is done is that the childhood of the child is snatched from them. They are no longer children. And what do we mean by that? So, that is the first question that one must ask, right? What does it mean to be a child, to be a free, independent child? So, I'm going to take that question to Kandahar and ask our friends in Kandahar, what do you think it means to be a free child? And when we think about our children, what are the things that we want to give to them? How can we empower them in this world? Kandahar, can you hear us? So while Kandahar is trying to fix their tech, let's move on to Swat Boys School and ask them, what do you think um, being a child is all about? What do we mean when we say a happy childhood, a free childhood? And when we talk about childhood in context to Iqbal, what is the difference between our perception of a happy childhood and the childhood that is explained in Iqbal?
Swat boy.
Hello. Would you please like to repeat the question? There is
Sure.
some problem with our internet.
Yeah, sure. So the question that I have is, what do we understand by happy childhood, the happy childhood? And what is the difference between our understanding of what it means to be a happy child and the story of Iqbal? So what is the difference between those children and the childhood that they are living and the childhood that we believe to be a normal, happy childhood?
Then, to be especially in our society, what I notice about the children in our society is if we believe that our children can do anything, then let them go free wherever they want to be. Do not put them, do not force them to go to school, or do not force them to take tuitions. This is all something like bonded labor too. If we want our children to be future leaders, if we want our children to be great personalities, then let them free. Whatever they want to do, let them do that. And if we see about Iqbal, he was born at age, age is just a number. Age doesn't matter, the number doesn't matter, what age it was. What matters is his confidence, his vision, and his goals, what he was wanting to attempt. That was the great thing to talk about. Iqbal set a good goal for himself. He was free at that time when he went to the Bounded Liberation Fund. When Iqbal went to the Bounded Liberation Fund, that was the opportunity provided to Iqbal. He was really free. He got the opportunity to go to his school. He got the opportunity to go to get involved in extracurricular activities, and from where Iqbal started his journey. And this is the main thing. This is the big thing in our society. The parents, especially, I would like to talk about the parents. They bound their children. There is no salary system nowadays in Pakistan, but we by ourselves bound our children. We make them limited to limited things. This is not the right way to guide your child to make him a great personality. We should leave our children whatever they want to do, whatever they are thinking. We should encourage him. We should respect our children instead of being getting angry. We should respect them. We should remain calm, sober in front of our children. That's all, ma'am.
Thank you so much for those thoughts. I completely agree. One of the biggest dilemmas of modern society is that we are forcing our children into becoming a version that we find acceptable or society finds acceptable. Even when the children go to school, they are not given freedom to make their own choices. On the contrary, a lot of times they are forced to pick up professions that they might not truly want to pursue. And that is also a form of bondage. So yes, I completely agree, and thank you for bringing that that thought into the conversation. And let's take that same thought to our friends in girls' school and ask them: when we talk about a free childhood, and when we talk about the freedom to make our own choices, story of Iqbal, what are the thoughts that come to our mind that you would like to share? Swat girls, over to you.
Assalamu alaikum, ma'am. Can you please
Yes, I will repeat my question. The thought that came from Swat Boys School is that the current environment, even our education system, does not provide children independence. They are forced to study what they might or might not like to pursue. And that is also a form of bondage for children. So when we think about freedom, when we think about independence in context to childhood, what do we mean by this term? And when we compare it to the story of Iqbal, what are the thoughts that come to our mind? What is the difference between the bondage of Iqbal and the bondage that our children feel in school these days? Swat, boys school, if you could please switch off your audio because it's going to create an echo. Thank you. Girls, over to you. Anyone who'd like to take this question?
Ma'am, you are asking about the child labor?
Yes, I'm asking what does it mean when we say bonded labor or child labor, and is our current environment giving children independence and freedom?
Child labor is a rising crime which forces human children to do paid work in a small industry, factories, illegal business, household, etc. Child labor affects the growth and development of children in every that is physically, socially, and mentally. In our society, there is too many child labor. The parents are forcing their children to studies, and it's good that the parents think that they are giving their children in factories to remove that. If we see in environment story, is there are too many children in the factory who make carpet, and that was not their age of making carpet. That was their age of study, and that was their age of free life. But unfortunately, due to their death and due to their issues, financial issues, they are forced to work and they are forced to live not a free. They are not living a freedom life. They are living a life that they were forced to work. And I think that if we remove the child labor from our society, we have to empower their parents and we have to do more. We have to give more opportunities to them to do what they like. But unfortunately, in our society, in every aspect of life, if it is in studies, if it is in mental issues, in every aspect of life, the child are forces, the parents force their child what they want. They do not give their child what they want. But I think if the children would select what they want in every field, if they do something like, if they want to go to any field, they are free to go. But in our society, this is not like that. Child labor is very
हमने बच्चों को उससे वहाँ से निकाला या तो एडमिट किया
for example, in our school, like Kushal School, there is a Malala Fund in which before this, there are many students who give opportunity to study. But before this, they are working in other people's home to take money and to survive for their family. But thanks to Kushal and thanks to the Malala Fund to give opportunities to students to learn. And the most important thing which I like in this story is portion number 10, when a little minor starting to learn the ABC or English alphabets to their colleagues, and this is what that how we can achieve our freedom. She tried to learn the students what she know about English or something, and Iqbal is a wise for his own freedom, and he's now we are here to talk about Iqbal because of his freedom and what he do for his freedom. And Iqbal Masih, I'm going to ask this story. Iqbal Masih, the medical story. Iqbal Masih is a fictional story about a real person. Iqbal Masih and was there to liberate bonded labor. When Iqbal was 4 years old, he was forced into child labor. Iqbal worked in a garment factory where he was malnourished, abused, and crippled from bending over his loom for 12 years, for 12 hours a day. Finally, for 6 years, when he was telling his escaped from child labor in Pakistan because of his efforts, because he raised the voice for his freedom. This is all because he didn't think about what people should say, what people will say, but he escaped from the factory and he only thinks that how I can achieve my freedom. And because of that thinking, because of that now, because of Iqbal, 3,000 children, he rescued over 3,000 children from child labor. But unfortunately, Iqbal Masih was retired or was murdered in 13 years. And this is so sad for us because if Iqbal Masih leave, he will more do about the freedom and what he thinks. But the main thing we have to eradicate the child labor from our country, and then our country will be like other countries, like other developed countries. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for those thoughts and that lovely recap of what Iqbal is all about. I completely agree with a lot of stuff that you said, especially when we talk about the whole dilemma of our education system and the complete boxes that we have put our children in. There is very little freedom and there is very little experimentation that permits the current system. So like our children are literally turned into robots and are trained to be, act, and learn in a certain manner. So their own inner capacity to explore the world around them and to understand the world around them keeps on becoming less and less. I mean, that is one of the reasons that we are producing such few natural scientists. And Pakistan at one point had Nobel laureates who were like natural scientists coming out from our country. But unfortunately, we have moved away from exploration of our own minds and our own spaces of the world around us. And that one of the reasons is that we have become extremely capital, and our society has turned into profit and loss. So even when we are training our children, we are training them to look at everything from a very commercial point of view and not explore the world, but just become, like enslaved to the dilemma of wealth. And that is one of the biggest problems that we have. And one of the biggest problems that the book Iqbal brings to our mind is, even though Iqbal is able to free himself and 3,000 other children with him through the Children's Liberation Army and fund that is running, that he meets, he meets the gentleman, he's able to not just free himself, but his friends. But when he is taking this whole issue to a world forum, like he goes to the United Nations, he gives a speech over there, he speaks about child labor, then he is given an fantastic opportunity to study at an Ivy League in the United States. But when he comes back to visit Pakistan, the whole mafia, which profits from child labor, shoots him because they don't want this to become something that is a world issue. Because if it comes into the light of the world, then there'll be lots of people who will be looking into this. Because world over, child labor is a problem, and it is most rampant and most prevalent in underdeveloped countries where there is lack of funds and there is more exploitation of children. So like countries like Pakistan, Afghanistan, Bangladesh, Thailand, and these are countries where the maximum amount of child labor takes place. When we look at our spaces around us, we see children who are working in some form of bonded labor. There are children who are out on the streets begging when they should be in school. That is also a mafia that we have, and we all know about it. But the question is, what are we doing about it? Are we doing anything? So the story of Iqbal is not just the story of one child. It is a story of a large percent of our children. So what do we, to read the book and be empathetic is one thing, but when we all come together and talk about this, what are the steps that we can take to ensure that the story of Iqbal is just one off and not a norm in our country? And with that thought, let's go to Swat Boys School and ask them, are there any incidences of child labor that they see around them? Children working in tea shops, in restaurants, in other places? And what are the steps that we as people can take to ensure that our children get to be in school, to create a better future for themselves, to break this vicious cycle? Swat, over to you. You'll need to unmute yourself. Stop. You muted, we can't hear you.
Okay, ma'am, thank you. Can you listen to us now? Okay. Madam, child labor is a problem in our society, and we are seeing many. We see many children around us in our societies that are working for hours and getting low pay. No doubt, this is a problem. But last time I met a child aging about, I think, 6 years, and he was working in a mechanic workshop here in our society. I asked the child why he is working, and he answered me very politely that, sir, I have no other choice to do. My father is a poor man, he is ill, and this problem, I think the child labor problem in our society exists due to the poverty in our, due to the poverty. This is a main reason. I asked the child why he is working, and he answered me that my father is a poor man and he can expenses for our house, and I am helping him. Actually, I am helping him. I asked him to go to school, and he said that I wish I could go to school, but I can't due to this financial problem exists in our home. And I was wordless. I didn't say any word to the child. I think this labor child problem will exist furthermore, will raise furthermore, just because our poverty level is increasing. and none of us is paying any sadaqah or any other to the poor people. Even we are not supporting the children who are working and who are underage and working in the hotels, restaurants, or any other mechanic shops. We are not encouraging them to go to school. We should do this. We should buy some books. We should buy some notebooks. We should lead them to go to school daily, even though they are poor, even though they have financial problems. But still, we can take some minutes or some hours from them and teach them. This is our responsibility. Overall, if we see in Pakistan, each and every person is involved in encouraging the child labor.
Absolutely, that is
Thank
very
you.
true. And I'm going to take the same question to Swat Girls School and ask them. We see a form of bonded labor, and especially in terms of children around us. What are the incidences that come to your mind? And then let's discuss what are the steps that we can take to ensure that our children who can't get to school are still able to read and write. I mean, what are the steps that we as people can do? Like, we all are educated, so what are the things that we can do to change the environment around us? Girls, over to you.
Hello, ma'am. Assalamu alaikum. What we can do for the children, they go to schools and college and they can educate themselves. So the government must have to pay their debts, make institutions for them, and encourage them. They must have to treat their students decently. They do not have to scare them and afraid them from the events happen everywhere. They have to empower them, and the government must have to give something to them, and I have to give regularly funds to the children and ban, and the government must have to ban the industries, bonded labor industries, and they must have to arrest the owners of that factories, and they have to give freedom to their children who works in that factories. They have to make schools, separate schools for their children, and they make to a regular syllabus for them, books, notebooks, everything. Government must have to provide them. And this is our responsibility to empower the children and tell them that they can do everything. And this is their right to spend their childhood in a freedom, and this is their basic right to go to school and educate themselves. And this is the responsibility of government. This is our responsibility, and this is the responsibility of their parents. Their parents must have to empower them. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much for that thought. And I agree, the biggest responsibility is of the government. And the government should ensure that the but unfortunately, we look at the world around us, we realize that the government is not capable of doing much. So then, as citizens ourselves, there are certain responsibilities that befall us. One of the simplest things that we can do, and I really like this model, which I personally call the snowball effect, which is that if you have certain skills that you have learned, then you can share those skills with another person and teach them. And that is the model that existed in our region for a really long amount of time, that people had some skills and they would go and teach others. So for example, if in an area around us, we see children maybe out on the streets, not in schools, we could sit the children down for not longer than 20 minutes maybe and ask them to just sit with us for 20 minutes and teach them the basic alphabets, the basic numbers. We could teach them mathematics, we could teach them Urdu, we could teach them English, we could teach them things so they are not completely uneducated. Because one of the biggest problems of not having education is that we do not know our own worth. Then everyone is in a place of exploiting us. So how can you stop this exploitation? That is the first question that we must ask. Why is it important that children not go and work at a young age, but be in school? Is because when a child, like for example, if we look at the story of Iqbal, right? Before Iqbal comes to this house where the children are in bonded labor, it's a group of children. They have no idea where they are, what they're doing. They wake up and sleep. That is the only thing. And between their wake up and sleeping time, they are working in a factory. They get up, they go to the factory, their day ends, they come back, they're given food, and they go to sleep. So they are literally like they don't have a sense of self. And when Iqbal comes, the first thing that he tells to the children is that we are all independent and free. We should decide what we want to do. Like it should be our choices. And like when you speak, like the friend, the little girl who doesn't speak ever, and when she gets out and then she speaks and she says, I will write the letter. And that is when we first find out that this child is educated. She can read and learn, read and write. But throughout the time that she is in this little hellhole, she doesn't, nobody even knows. Everybody's trying to protect her because they think that she's mute. Then we find out that no, she's not only is she not mute, she can speak, but she can also write and read. So this is what I'm talking about. So what is our responsibility? If we have some skills that we have learned today, then let's try and use those skills to empower others. So, okay, so we have Kandahar also here. So Kandahar, over to you. We are talking about civic responsibility, child labor, and education. So I would love to get your thoughts on this. Swat boys, if you could mute your mic, we can't hear Kandahar. Kandahar, your voice is slightly distorted. If you
Swat voice, can you switch off your camera audio?
Kandahar, we can't hear you.
Zamir, are you with us? Can you hear us? I think, like he mentioned, there's a lot of snowfall happening over there. They're expecting, so I think because of that, the connection has just gone. The bandwidth is very low over there.
So we have our colleague Sana in Lahore, who's also a part of the session. So let's get Sana's opinions and thoughts on what we are reading about today. Sana, so I would love to know, like when we talk to our students, especially our children, and we're trying to educate them about the idea of the book club is to talk about social issues that exist around us and bring them to the forefront. And child labor, as we all know, is one of the biggest problems that is plaguing our society. So what do you think the story of Iqbal teaches us? And what are the steps that we can take to ensure that our children learn something valuable from this?
Hi, Alia and everyone. Hope you all are doing well. More than anything, I think story of Iqbal is the story of resilience. It's the story of resistance against all odds. It's the story of hope. It's a story of courage. And, adding to what you were saying earlier, what's our civic responsibility? What can we do to make a change, considering the dynamics that we live in right now? Well, one form of it is exactly what we are doing right now. It's holding these book clubs, holding these platforms where we can talk about these issues. And another one is writing and sharing this story. So for example, Iqbal is a fictionalized account of a real story. I do believe, and Iqbal is the story of countless other children from all over the world who are suffering from the menace of child labor, bonded labor. I think, and then, you know, when we think about Iqbal, Iqbal became the face, the symbol of a certain movement against child labor. You know, Iqbal became this name which resonated with so many other people around the world. And in this sense, Iqbal's story is the story of countless other children who are forced into bonded labor. Iqbal became a source of inspiration, not just, you know, he becomes an inspiration for Fatima, for example, in the story. He becomes an inspiration for the children who live with him, who work with him. And then in that sense, we do have all of these similar stories around us. I think one of the things that, and it's a very simple thing that you can do, you could reach out to a person, you could have a conversation with them, you could talk to them and get to know what their story is. And then the next step would be to share that story with other people so that, you know, we get to know more about, you know, what kind of situation is, what the ground realities are for these kids who are working in child labor, and not just for child labor, for any other issue that prevails in our society. I think we need to, the first thing we can do is just to have a conversation and to dust other offs, to let them dust ourselves off as well, and to hold that conversation and then to share that story as well. So at this point, you know, I would really like to open this conversation about sharing these stories. So, you know, I would love to know, for example, Kandahar wasn't able to read the story of Iqbal, read the novel, but they have been, you know, listening to this conversation that we've been having right now. I would love to know if they have, you know, stories they know from their neighborhood, from their city, from their area. They would, you know, like to share a story of a local hero that has inspired them. So, you know, so that we can also get to know about their local heroes. So over to Kandahar, and then would love to know more thoughts from Swat as well.
Kandahar, it's lovely to have you. So the question that we have for you, so the story of Iqbal, as we've been trying to get you.
Can you hear us?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, can you hear?
Be patient.
Okay, great to hear that. Great to hear that. Actually, I am holding the phone in my hand, and all of them have loved the story of Iqbal. And thank you so much for sharing all the views. Actually, like some of the participants would like to share their thoughts on the, they would like to say something about a child life in Afghanistan. And comparing a child life in Afghanistan with the story Iqbal. So I would like to ask the participants if one of them would like to. Anyone? Of course. Okay, so, okay, can you please come here? Yes, yes, please come here. So you can sit here and then I'll be, okay. Sure.
Salam and a very good morning to all of you, especially those youngsters from. Salam and a very good morning to all of you, especially those sweet youngsters from Pakistan, and of course our host and the special guests. The story of Iqbal is quite familiar with the lifestyle of almost every child in our society, because majority of our child who face somehow pressure from the society, or somehow they don't get freedom to decide for their future, or some of them are like unable to reach their basic rights. We see kids on roads, we see kids in tea shops working, we see kids working heavy duties, and we see kids out of schools. We see kids with special like disabilities still have no like attention from authorities. These are like challenges. So in every kid, I see an Iqbal. In our society, when we look, the best part would be if we work on public awareness, if we work on how to educate them, and the solution will only be practical if we did something on ground for them, if we organized more childcare houses, if we organized more shelter homes for them, if we organize more schools for them, and if we organize more like responsible authorities who can be contacted whenever a child needs. Thank you. That was all. Thank you.
Actually, like I also would like to say something about this. Here in Afghanistan, like it is the same case as in our neighboring country, Pakistan. To be honest, like we do also have a lot of kids working. We have them they have been put a huge pressure on. Actually, the only I mean, there are many ways that we can overcome this challenge. One of the ways is to create some public awareness programs and some programs for them. For example, like last month, I had a program named A Day with Street Children. And that program, we were there and we spent a day with them. We sang songs with them. We encouraged them to take part or to go or to join high schools. And of course, we talked to their families and persons, so to let them get education. And we had a founder. He is a businessman of Kandahar. He is giving like 250 Afghanis per day to the families. And of course, he takes that child from them and send them to the school. So I think this is a great initiative here in Kandahar, which is done by one of the businessmen in Kandahar, and we are really thankful for that. Anyone else, gentlemen, ladies or gentlemen, who would like to share ideas or yes, Mr. Pirala, you? Okay, please. So we have another participant also would like to talk about a child life in Afghanistan. Yeah, good morning. I hope that you are fine. Exactly that we don't have book of Bal, so I will share my information about the childhood in our the childhood in our country. So it's a good luck for all children that we haven't spent our childhood in the kindergarten, because in whom we can learn about our culture, the Islamic culture, and how we can learn about from our family. Exactly, we can learn that from a kindergarten, because they don't know how to teach a child. So therefore, most of the children, they spend their time slacking their time, and they don't know how to promote their family should purposeful aim. Thanks. Thanks so much. I
Thank you so
think
much.
that was it from our side. And once again, we are sorry for not reading the Iqbal, but still we shared our so hope you have enjoyed the stories here.
Thank you. Yes, we thoroughly enjoyed the stories coming in from Afghanistan, like always. One of the biggest problems that both Afghanistan and Pakistan face is the lack of education for our children. And the dilemma of our children to have to go out and work and earn money for their families so they all can be fed. And of course, there are enterprises that take in these children and use them as commodities for money is one of the biggest problems that this issue persists. But if we are to progress, if we are to produce better children or produce better generations, then we have to work hard at creating childhood for our children. Because if our children don't have a childhood, there's a very high probability that we will not be producing adults who are free thinking, because from a very young age they have been put in a closed box. So the problem will not change, our lives will not change, our societies will not change unless we invest in our children. It's as simple as that. So yes, there are, we all know that we are in underdeveloped countries. We don't have the resources to be able to provide the needs of the people. So the responsibility befalls on us. We as civilians have a bigger responsibility today than the civilians in the first world countries, because their government is taking care of a lot of things, and we have to be more careful. We have to be more conscious of the children around us. If we cannot put them in school for longer runs, I think all of us can pledge that we will take out 20 minutes every day and sit with the child on the streets and just talk to them. You don't have to go there with a book. You don't have to teach them things. You can just talk. You can talk to them about what it means to be a citizen in a free world, because it is a free country. We both independent states. Yes, we have tremendous issues, but we are independent. So that is a plus one. That is a good point to start with. Sit with the children, explain to them that they are free as well. And what does freedom mean? What is it to be independent? What is it to be free? What do these terms mean? That means that you cannot be exploited, that you cannot be taken for granted. And those are the things that our children must learn at a very young age, unfortunately. Because with child labor, with bonded labor, comes a lot of other dilemmas that we have been discussing in our books. There is prostitution, there is rape, there is exploitation, there are lots of issues that stem from one problem. So it becomes bigger and bigger until it becomes a menace for society, and we live in extremely unpleasant societies. So the one way of changing the basic structure of a society is to reintroduce a concept that has been at the epicenter of our civilization, which is stories. So let's become storytellers again. Let's become sharers of stories. And let's use that medium, which has been part and parcel of our people, and enhance that to educate one another. Because what is education but a medium through which we share stories? Because each and every experience is a story. Each and every methodology or or anything that you learn, physics is stories, chemistry is stories, biology, mathematics, English, everything is a story. So let's use these stories in an informal method and go and try and help our children, because it is by consciously making these decisions that we will be able to change the world around us. And on that note, I'm gonna go over to first girls' school Swat, then girls' school, then boys' school Swat, and then come to Kandahar. And I would love to have a last note from you as to a commitment, that what is the promise that we make through these book clubs, that we will try and do to the best of our capacities and capabilities. So, Swat girls, over to you. What is the one thing that you promise as we go out of this book club today that you will try and do to ensure that our children are aware? You need to unmute yourself, please. Swat, we can't hear you. You need to unmute.
Assalamualaikum, ma'am.
Walaikum assalam.
Can you repeat your question again?
Yes. I just want to know, today we're talking about bonded labor, we're talking about child labor, we're talking about the dilemmas that exist in our society. And I want to know, what is the one promise that you think you can make through this book club to change the lives of children around you, so that the story of Iqbal is not repeated?
The birth tendency to educate is about a group of children who are forced to engage in slave labor during holidays in Lahore, Pakistan. The novel tells the story of how a new child named Iqbal arrives and convinces the other children that they must be responsible for their own escape or remain slave forever.
What can you do?
We can implement laws and we can implement more laws.
So would you do that? Would you go help girls who can't come to school? Would you go and speak to them and talk to them about what you learn in school?
Yes, I will share with them and I will try my level best to support the children. They were free and we will all were free get their study and we will study to learn as something. We'll try to do.
Okay, wonderful. So I'm going to hold you on to it. And I hope that when you get these books that you're reading, you share it with girls who can't come to school. In your community, in your neighborhood, you sit and you talk to them about what we talk about.
Yes. Internet is not working properly.
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
Sorry, internet is not working.
I can't hear you. Okay. Let's go to Swat Boys School and ask them. We learned about Iqbal. I want to know, how can you help the children in Swat who cannot come to school by learning the story of Iqbal? What is the promise that you can make to help the children who can't go to school? Swat Boys. I think Swat. Okay, Swat Boys, the question is for you. What commitment can you make to help children who can't go to school in your neighborhood? Please unmute. You're muted. You're muted. I can't hear you.
We are aiming to go to individually for each children to its workplace where they are working, the children's where they are working. We will go there at their workplace and give them 20 to 25 minutes and will tell a single story each and every day. We will share stories with them. We will motivate them to go to school instead of going to workplaces. That's it.
Thank you so much. That's lovely to hear. Kandahar, over to you. What promise can you make through this project, through this story that we shared today, to help the children around you?
Okay, sure. One of the participants will share, one or two participants will share their ideas. So over to you guys.
Okay, so if my voice is audible, there is a famous Chinese saying that if you want to live for 1 year, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Please continue.
Okay, so there is a famous Chinese saying that if you want to live for 1 year, plant a farm. If you want to live for 3 or 4 years, then plant something bigger. And if you want to live for 10 years, then plant a tree. But if you want to live for centuries, then invest in your kids. As by reading these books and from today's session, I'm gonna make a promise that I'll increase public awareness and I'll tell stories to kids and encourage them to and to prepare themselves to decide whatever they want in their future. So that's my promise that I'll raise public awareness. Thank you.
Excellent. Anyone
Thank you
else?
so much, everybody. Unfortunately, we're running out of time. It was an amazing session, like always. I'm so sorry, Kandahar, you did not receive your books on time. I'm so sorry it's snowing so much that you can't connect with us. I love having your thoughts and ideas in the conversation. It really opens our minds. And I think all of us coming together and discussing things like this really provides us a unique opportunity to try and do better for ourselves, for the world around us, and especially our own countries, and invest in our children. One of the promises that I make today, and I am hopeful that I will be able to do this, is that once every week I will take out time and go and sit with a child and just talk. I will talk to them about how I see the world, and I would love to know how they see the world. And then we will talk about how we can change things around us which don't make us happy, because that is all that we need to do at this moment in time, to tell each other that we care. I mean, I don't think going to a child who is trying to earn money for his family, I cannot force him or her to stop doing what they are doing, because that money is important for feeding them. But I can try and explain to them how to earn money so they're not exploited. So there is a difference. So I'm going to try and do that, and I'm hopeful that all of us will try and do our bit. And when we come together next month, we will talk about this. So I'm going to make a note and ask each and every one of you what you did. So you better go out and do something. And on that note, I'm gonna sign out. I'm absolutely humbled by today's conversation. It is a topic that is very, very close to me as a mother, as a woman. I know how my heart bleeds when I think about children and their traumas. So please look at the children around you. Look at them, acknowledge them, and if you can't do anything else, then just give them a smile to cheer them up. I mean, there is a little something that all of us can do every little while when we look around us and we see poverty, we see grief, and we see it on our children. So that is heartbreaking. So let's try and heal that heartbreak a little every day. So we'll get in touch next month with another book and more conversations. Thank you for being so patient, and thank you for being a wonderful audience. Khuda Hafiz.